This edition of Mac Voices is supported by you, our viewers and listeners, through our Patreon and PayPal sponsorship options. To learn more, visit macvoices.com/support. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 of our conversation with Aidan Fitzpatrick of Reincubate about Camo, the application that lets you use your iPhone as a webcam. The first part of the conversation covered the application itself, the results you can get out of it, how it works, and why you would want to use a phone as a webcam. This time we get into a whole different set of topics, and we'll just jump right back in with Aidan. So the one other thing we need to talk about is the price.
Yes.
Because this is, I wanted to make sure people understood just what it could do and how good it looked, because the price is not your typical, cheap price on the App Store. And first of all, I applaud you for that, because I think that, I want you to continue to develop this. And so I have no problem, paying for it, but a lot of people do. I'm also quick to tell you I've checked out a couple of your competitors that are at that cheap price. And I'm not going to call any names, but they don't work, or they don't work well, or they don't always work. And that always bothers me, because now, okay, I've spent $3.99 or $4.99, but I have something that doesn't work. I'd much rather spend more money and have something that works, like the camera I'm using now, or like my iPhone, if it can be reliable. And with Camo, it is reliable.
Thank you. Well, we spent a lot of time thinking and talking about price, and I suppose it's maybe worth stepping back and talking about some of the differences, or some of the main differences. I mean, there are tools out there that do this, and some of them have been around for many years. The situation I found myself in when we sent the team home was that we couldn't find anything that we were happy to run on our computers. So we wanted something that was reliable. We wanted something that wasn't full of ads. We wanted something that essentially let you make the adjustments on your Mac. So almost all of these things, you have to do the adjustments on your phone. And to me, it just doesn't make sense, because you mount your phone. You can't bring your phone down and adjust it. You need the control panel on the Mac. And so that sort of combination of reliability and no ads and easy controls, combined with this thing with compatibility, was really what pushed us to build this ourselves. Because what we saw is developers would say, oh yeah, here, Zoom is broken again. Zoom won't work with this. Here's a console command, become sudo, run this command in terminal, reboot your computer, maybe it will work. And I just wanted a solution that wouldn't have that. You don't need to use terminal. We're never going to send you a console command. We're never going to serve you any ads. And it's going to work beautifully on your iPad, and you're going to have dark mode and all of that other stuff, and a proper privacy policy and proper support. So that was why we felt we had to build this. In terms of pricing, Camo is certainly not the cheapest product on the market, but we felt that we wanted to make a really good go at this. We have a number of other products that we worked on, and I wanted to get enough attention on this product to build something that we felt was special. And we've had a lot of great feedback on that. So I hope we've priced it correctly. It's $39.99 for a 12-month license. That said, the free edition is designed to be hopefully everything you need. So at the moment, I've got the resolution here to 720p. You'll see there's a little Camo watermark on the screen. What you're seeing now is what the free edition will give you. And I think often when people see that, an external webcam may be 4K or it may be 1080p, what you're going to find is even on your old iPhone with a free edition at 720p, you're still going to get a much better image quality. So I would really make the argument, use the free version. We're very happy if people use the free version. It should be everything they need. Some people are allergic to the watermark and they would like to remove it. Some people want to fiddle with the knobs and make adjustments. Some people want to go to higher res. And yeah, you have to pay to get access to that. But we hope the free edition is great. And one factor with that pricing is, as well as paying for me to be on the warpath with the different companies that we need to get deeper integration with on an ongoing basis. It also gives us the capital that we need to really invest in Camo. So we're going to be supporting 4K. We're going to let people choose different frame rates. We're going to have wireless support. We're about to go into beta on a Windows edition. There are a whole series of extra things we're going to be adding on. The next thing is going to be portrait mode, which I'm super excited about and really looking forward to doing, because there are a whole series of things that we can do that you can't do with a video chat app on your Mac. Because when you're on the Mac only has access to a single image. It doesn't have true depth access. So it's reliant on using machine learning to try and separate foreground from background, whereas we have hardware that can help us do that. And we can also do that processing on the phone, which means the Mac's fans don't need to spin up and the thing doesn't get hot. So yeah, it's positioned as a premium product. It's got hopefully a great free edition. And it seems to be getting a good response.
Okay, so you mentioned $39.95 for a 12-month license. Excuse me.
That's right.
So what happens at the 12-month? If I decide, okay, I'm not going to renew? Does it drop back to the free version and I go back to the watermark and the 720p, or is I don't think it stops functioning? But what's that process look like?
Yeah, that's right. It goes back to the free edition. So it's a 12-month license. We've got a money-back promise. So if you've got any problem, we'll just return the money. That's fine. We want happy users who love and rave about the product, and so far they are. But yeah, we don't capture or tokenize credit card details or anything like that. So there's no automatic renewal. When you buy it, you have a 12-month license. At the end of that 12 months, we'll send a renewal offer with a nice discount. But if you don't renew, it will drop back to the free version.
Now that's an interesting point, that this is sort of a subscription service, sort of not, but you solve the problem by not holding my credit card. So that the problem that you would potentially have of doing that, managing that, that's very, very interesting.
I think it may be that we have the worst of both worlds, in that I know some people, or at least for the company, because I know some people like to have a perpetual license, and I know some people hate the idea of auto renewal. And because we're not doing that auto renewal, maybe you could argue it sounds like a subscription, but it doesn't have that thing that would maybe help us if we were doing that auto renewal on customers. So I think over time we will adopt some different pricing models. I think we may well have a monthly mechanism that lets people kind of access the product for a shorter period of time. Perhaps we'll do a month-to-month rolling subscription, and where we do that, I imagine we will securely have Stripe, tokenize the card details so it can do recurring billing.
I'm so glad we had the earlier part of the conversation before this, because I think people have a tendency to think, oh, well, there should be nothing to it, because if I plug my iPhone into my computer, I can pull it up in QuickTime Player and use it that way. So it's got to be really easy just to flip a couple more switches and turn it into a webcam. And they forget just what you were talking about, the integrations necessary, and what we were also talking about, the Skype scenario where things are constantly being updated, which potentially break your product or part of your product that you have to go in and revise to make sure that it continues to work. So this is not something that happens once and then you walk away from it. It has to be for you an ongoing process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to build the product, but I spend a lot of time on the phone to American video companies, working with them to get Camo better integrated. And at any time they can make a change and just mess things up. The integration mechanism we have built into Camo is very robust. So I'm aware that there are other tools that use virtual cameras that, say, plug into Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, I think, put out an update about 2 weeks ago that locked all of them out. It doesn't lock Camo out. Camo's integration has withstood that. And I think the fact that we're able to get in touch generally with executives at these companies or find champions in the organizations is very helpful. And that's not something you can do unless you're really quite focused on it.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's so much about understanding what's going on behind the scenes that these things require maintenance. Every time subscription of any kind comes up on the show, I inevitably get a couple emails. And so I know, folks, you're out there. You'll send me an email, saying, I will never buy anything that's a subscription. That's not right. That's not the way it should be. And, my response is always the same is, there are some things that absolutely do not justify a subscription. But those things that require ongoing maintenance and this kind of work, and especially something that, because we're not talking about just chatting with your grandparents or, showing off your kids. We're talking about business here. And this is the way that business is going to be done. And so, yes, I want something that is going to be reliable if I'm going to depend on it. And that's why, Aidan and his team are doing such great work, I think, because they're trying to make sure it's as seamless as possible. That costs money. This edition of MacVoices is supported by you, our viewers and listeners, through our Patreon and PayPal sponsorship options. To learn more, visit MacVoices.com/support. If you get value from MacVoices, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/MacVoices. You get access to the MacVoices Thinking posts, exclusive Patreon-only video chats, as well as having your name in the credits of each MacVoices show for the months you support. Having you as a MacVoices patron helps us pay the bills and keep building and improving MacVoices. Or, if one-time support is more your speed, use our PayPal option. You too will get your name in the show notes of every MacVoices episode for the month you contribute. Or you can support the show by writing a review in iTunes or buying through our affiliate links. Neither of these costs you anything, but they help MacVoices a great deal. Again, MacVoices.com/support. Thanks to everyone who contributes to keep MacVoices firing on all cylinders.
We started off with the other models 12 years ago. So when we started, I sold our first product, which is called iPhone Backup Extractor, as a one-off license. And we still have customers who bought it 12 years ago, who every now and then email in and we support. And that's great, but I was slightly less grey back then. It was a little while ago. Then we sort of switched to having selling the software and limiting that to a version, because it's now on version 7.8. The problem with that is, even if you don't explicitly do it in the business, you still have to think about how you spread features across your roadmap. Okay, we're going to sell version 1 now. What is version 2? What are we doing in 2 years or 2.5 years to make that model work? And with Camo, we've just got a ton of great ideas, and I want to ship them all as soon as possible. I don't want to say, no, let's hold back from portrait mode, or let's hold back from 4K or audio or what have you. I just want to fire that out, and I want to say, hey, it's a free upgrade. Everything we do, it's a free upgrade. If you've got it, you're going to get whatever we're working on. And after we had that perpetual sales model, we then said, well, what if, is there a way we can avoid this? Can we have a perpetual sale, but then with 12 months of support and updates? Is that a middle ground? And we tried that. And the problem is mainly that you end up with people holding out on older versions of the product that aren't going to have a good time. So it's like, hey, I'm using version 4, and for some reason it doesn't work with Zoom, or it doesn't work with this or that. And you've got this compatibility issue, because things change all the time. In our other desktop product, we're helping people recover data from their iPhones and from iPhone backups. And it's like you could recover your messages from WhatsApp, you could recover your messages from iOS. The problem is WhatsApp and iOS move on. There can be a different version of WhatsApp put out at any point. And I just think that thing where we risk having customers who've paid money, who end up on an older version, who we can't kind of properly support without them just having, the solution is just have the latest version and these problems go away. And I think that's ultimately what leads us to subscriptions. If you're having the Camo experience, we want you to have the latest and greatest. We want it to be awesome. And we want it to be enabling us to continue to invest in the product and making sure it's going to be as compatible and as good as it can be.
This is part of the conversation I didn't expect to have, but I think it's important. I think it's very important to continue to try to educate people about what really goes on with software development, and the costs associated with it. And your previous product model is a perfect one, because there are plenty of apps that I've paid for, and I want to have work, but And I've had apps in the past that, the developer becomes uninterested or something happens to them or whatever, and the product languishes or dies. And so that's money that I spent that, would I have spent a couple more bucks to keep them going? Well, yeah. In fact, I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but back over my one shoulder is a ScanSnap scanner. And they just announced a new upgrade that would bring this from a retired mode into an active mode. And so we've had the debate here about, should that be a free upgrade? Should we expect it to continue to work, or is it something that you should pay for or expect to pay for? And I think these are the challenges confronting both software and hardware manufacturers that need to be addressed.
I think so. I followed some of that saga on Tidbits, and I've enjoyed it very much. I think there's maybe a related question, which is around whether or not one is an indie. And I consider myself and I consider Reincubate to be an indie software maker. And I think there's sometimes a perception that developers are making a huge amount of money with subscriptions. We're driving around in Lamborghinis or Ferraris, and these are hugely profitable companies. I think, the reality is they're generally very small companies, 1 or 2 people. Incubate's a little bit bigger than that, but we're still very small. Engineers are expensive. We're generally not motivated by making money. I'm certainly not motivated by making money. That's not my sole motivator. I want to build amazing products and I want to solve hard problems. And you need to have a source of income into the business to be able to do that and to be able to take a punt on building a product, as we've done with this. I feel, I swap tweets every now and then with James Thompson of pCalc, and I know he's often responding as people say, hey, it's not like building a calculator. And I know one of his apps is a calculator. I would make the argument that I think possibly pCalc could be a subscription. I think it's reasonable enough. Software development is hard, and of course there's all this more recent conversation about the App Store and the 30% cut and what's happened to the price of software. I don't think indie software developers who use subscription models are running away with all the gold here. I'm not sure that's quite how it is.
Indie developers or the big developers, my version of it is, I guess, that there are some apps, the apps that I pull out once or twice a month, I struggle a little bit with, the subscription idea. I think I'd be happier with upgrades. But the apps that I use on a weekly or daily basis, or even more frequently, absolutely. I think a subscription model, or that do something that, what you're doing is you're replacing hardware for me, because now I would not have to buy a DSLR to get that kind of quality. And so as a result, I really want your app to continue to work. And your app is one that I probably will use on a pretty, maybe not daily basis, but definitely multiple times a week. So, I think it's completely justified.
Thank you.
And let's not forget the way software used to be priced. I mean, $40, $50, $60, $70, $80, $100 used to be, a very common thing. And then we have, they were no longer, they suddenly morphed from applications to apps. And for some reason, people thought that meant that the decimal point got moved over.
I think the software industry hasn't necessarily done a lot to help itself. I think those 99-cent apps are a difficult model, a very difficult model.
Yeah. Before we go, what are some of the other apps that your company has developed or does develop?
So our original app that we have been building out over the years is called iPhone Backup Extractor. Been around since 2008. The idea is if you've lost or damaged your iPhone or deleted something from it, it will help you pull the data out of it. We've been through a number of different versions of that over the years. We were able to pull some data out of iCloud, but the focus is really kind of working with iCloud backups, particularly visualization of messages, location data, notes, images, and so on.
I really appreciate you being here and telling us about this and having this conversation. I think every time that we get a developer on, I don't plan to have these conversations, but they often seem to come up, and especially when there are questions. And right now, as you said, the App Store pricing is in the news, so it's on a lot of people's minds. Obviously, the app is in the App Store, but is there a website where folks can go to learn more about all about it and see what else you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company is Reincubate, and the site is reincubate.com. If you put /Camo, C-A-M-O, on that, you'll get to the Camo site, and you can download the free edition from there. If you search Camo in the App Store, it will also come up top.
Perfect. Aidan, thank you again. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to playing with Camo, and folks, don't be surprised if you see it in a future edition of Mac Voices as my camera. And awesome. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Chuck. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Please go back and re-listen to this episode, not just for the features of Camo, but also for the pricing, and gain a little understanding about it, what it takes to make these apps and bring them to you and to keep them going. That is the key part. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.